Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyani. Let us look at the players in the Meyiwa trial as we try and understand what is going on in this, frankly baffling trial, surprising trial, full of surprises. At every turn you'll find surprises in this trial. And there are so many abnormalities about it. You can't even count them on one hand. Let us today look at, this afternoon rather, let us look at the issue of what happened before Senzo was killed and leading up to the death of Senzo Meyiwa and after. This was a love triangle. And let me qualify all this by saying, you see, I'm not interested in the personal life of Khumalo. I'm not interested in I was never interested in the personal life of Senzo Meyiwa or any of the other people involved in this matter. But sometimes you cannot talk about individuals without, getting into their personal lives and relationships to try and understand the dynamics at play, right? Sometimes by looking at the personalities and the dynamics at play, you will then find out, the motive, you'll find the motive somewhere there. Who could have wanted, for instance, Senzo Meyiwa dead? Let us start there. Now, when this investigation started, you'll remember that the police rushed to the Khumalo house. When they got to the Khumalo house, they were told the story that there'd been intruders into that house. And then they started looking all over the place for these intruders. Never found the intruders and arrested the intruders, I think only in 2020. And remember, Senzo died in 2014, right? So it was only 6 years later that the so-called intruders were arrested. It took the police 6 years to come up with those intruders. Now, after that was the story the police were told. The police then proceeded with that investigation, ruled out all the people in the house for reasons best known to themselves, and started focusing on those intruders who were supposed to have come into the house. Now, this was a love triangle, like I said at the beginning. There was Senzo at the center of it all. There was his wife, Mandisa, and on the other hand, there was Khumalo. So Senzo, it would appear, was playing off Mandisa against Khumalo. Mandisa was his lawfully married wife. Kelly was the girlfriend. But it would appear that, Mandisa's life was in tatters because of this relationship. The family was very angry that, Senzo was involved with this Khumalo, and there was a lot of tension going on between Mandisa, the wife, and Senzo himself. And on the other hand, there was a lot of tension going on between, on the one hand, Mandisa and Khumalo. So after Senzo was killed, like I said earlier on, the investigation never focused on the people in the house. You'll recall the testimony of Zandi Khumalo in court. Zandi, under cross-examination, said, you see, the police were always fishing in the same pond. And what did that mean? It means they were only focusing on one thing, right? They were not casting their net wider to look at other possible suspects. And we know for a fact that Zandi and Khumalo have always, tried to suggest, no matter how directly or indirectly they've tried to do it, that Mandisa has not been investigated, right? Why is Mandisa not being investigated? Because, they are trying to come up with a theory that, she could have also had a motive to have Senzo killed because, it was a question of, if I cannot have him now that now that Kelly has taken her, perhaps Mandisa could have had the motive to, get people to kill her. But, I have discussed this in spite of the fact that they wanted us to the Khumalos, especially Zandi Khumalo is on record as having said this. In spite of the fact that they wanted us to focus away from themselves to Mandisa as another person who was worth investigating, we realized that nothing turns on Mandisa. Mandisa was never treated as a suspect. The investigators who were on the ground, these are the real investigators, you see, because they've got two sets of investigators here. We have got the investigators of 636, those investigators of 636 who came with that intruder theory have never had anything to say about Mandisa. We also have the version of 375. 375 does not even attempt to touch her because it squarely places the blame on the people in the house. So Mandisa was then ruled out completely as a suspect. She does not feature anywhere in this trial. She has never featured anywhere in the investigations surrounding this trial. Because in simple terms, she was never involved, right? So that is the situation that we find ourselves in this Senzo Meyiwa thing. There have been challenges around, the arresting of Kelly Khumalo. People are saying, why is Kelly Khumalo not being arrested? But the issue is, if they're not going to arrest her in spite of the fact that there was a J50, well, that is what it is. That is what it is. So after the death of Senzo Meyiwa, because there had already been tensions between Kelly Khumalo and Mandisa on the one hand, the death of Senzo Meyiwa in the Khumalo house could not have come at a worse time for Kelly Khumalo, because here she was, conducting or, having an affair, a clandestine affair with somebody's husband, and that person comes and dies in her own house, in her presence, and then her name also gets bandied about as to whether, were there intruders into that house or whether it was actually Kelly Khumalo who shot the fatal bullet or bullets. So it happened at possibly the worst time for Kelly. Now, one would have expected, let us for once agree with the 636 theory and say, perhaps there were intruders into that house, right? And we know for a fact that there were no intruders into that house. But let us, just for argument's sake, say there were intruders into that house. What an unfortunate thing, because then the intruders would have shot Kelly Khumalo, right? Would have shot rather Senzo Meyiwa, right in front of everybody, right there in front of Zandi, right? And we would have expected that even if there were strained relations with, the Meyiwa family, especially with the Meyiwa family, especially Mandisa, right? Kelly Khumalo had an obligation, to be as close as possible to the Meyiwa family and the wife of Senzo, to try and sort of clear the air, that in spite of the fact that, your husband, I had this clandestine affair with your husband, which was long known to everybody, including Mandisa herself, but these are the circumstances that led to the death of Senzo Meyiwa. That would have brought some kind of closure for Mandisa and the Meyiwa family. But ever since Senzo died, Kelly Khumalo was not even welcome at the funeral of Senzo Meyiwa. She never attended that funeral. And over time, she has gone so distant from that family, And you wonder why, what is going on here? Because from the very beginning, the family has always had a suspicion that Kelly Khumalo was somehow involved in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. Why, for instance, not allow her to attend? Why was she not welcome at Senzo Meyiwa's funeral? You might ask yourself. Why has she not talked to the family in these 10 years or more, right? And the child that they had together, the Meyiwas have no access to their daughter that they had together with Senzo. So this is part of the dynamics that I want to give you around the Meyiwa case. But you see, that narrative that was being pushed around by people like Zandi Khumalo, that Mandisa could also have had a motive, never saw the light of day. Never saw the light of day. Nobody has ever bothered about that because it was simply, a ruse to divert attention once more again from the people in the house to start pointing out fingers at people who had nothing to do with the death of Senzo Meyiwa, like Mandisa. So Mandisa was never a suspect. She was never a suspect. She's, until today, the grieving widow who is still baffled about what happened to her late husband on that fateful day. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video, and let me thank you for all the views that I'm seeing. Please don't skip those ads, and have a wonderful day.